Welcome back. Today I'm with Captain Miro, and we're going to be walking through creating seaplanes. Let's get started! Alright, so this is Captain Miro. You may know him from the workshop or the Discord. He makes a lot of interesting seaplanes, and he's also made steam trains. In fact, he helped me with the Polar Express. So today he's going to walk us through all these tips and tricks that he's learned how to make a seaplane float, how to make a seaplane get off the water, and most importantly, how to land again. So I'm going to let him go ahead and start walking us through. Where do we start, Captain?
First with the power plant of the aircraft, with the propellers.
The propellers. Okay, so even your propellers, you have to do something special to get them to work on a seaplane?
Yes, because of the high center of thrust, you will always nose down, so you have to divert the force upwards by using robotic hinge on aircraft propellers or using the heavy rotor, which has pitch control.
Okay, so when you're making a seaplane, you have two options. You can use the heavy rotor, which basically it's kind of like it's almost like a helicopter, right? It can kind of change its pitch and stuff.
Yes, it can.
And then if you're using the aircraft helicopter, you actually have to build a pitch system for yourself, it looks like. Is there a trick that it has to be up or down when landing as well, or can it be flat when landing?
It can be flat, but the issue is that you still want it up, so when you move in the water by landing, it will still start going down with the drag from the water. You still want up, so it stays level.
So after you have your propellers set up and ready to go, what is the next step?
The next step is, if you are using aircraft engine and aircraft propeller, you need something to boost you out of the water, which is a medium electric motor with 2 gearboxes multiplying by 3 and a small boat propeller, which is connected to a push button and a numerical switch box to turn it on and off, to launch you out into the water, into the air.
Okay, so let's let this calm down here. There we go. So this propeller is actually pushing the boat out of the water. It's not really used for moving around in the water, but it's actually a boost, huh?
Yes, it is. I mean, if you would go really technical and have like landing floats that go down with robotic hinge, you could use a clutch and divert with a lot of piping the power of the engine down to the propeller, but that's too much.
Oh, okay. So you just made its own little motor here to work. All right, what is this thing over here?
That's the water flaps, I call them, or air brakes. It's basically when you tilt the engine up, it's not enough to prevent you from nose diving down into the water. So you need 1 or 2 fin rotors on the front to push the front upwards.
All right, so let's just recap this. So if you are using an aircraft engine, you're going to want to have a pivot to tilt it upwards to start pulling the aircraft upwards. But that's not going to be enough. You're going to want to also add the prop in the back to boost it out of the water. And then these fins are kind of diverting. Are they kind of like pushing up the nose? Is that the idea?
Yes. You still need it when the heavy rotor is using, when you go really slow, so it still goes upwards.
Oh, so if you're using the heavy rotor, you still need these. I mean, rotor, heavy rotor. Okay. And are these actually pushing on the air, or are they pushing on the water? What are they actually doing?
They are pushing on the water.
Pushing on the water. Okay.
Interesting. I would have never thought of any of this. No wonder I don't build seaplanes.
All right, so what is next up?
Next up is lightweight construction, because if you build an awesome looking plane with only the blocks, it will not float. In case of my Albatros, the entire cockpit was still underwater by using normal blocks.
Oh, so you came up with a way to lessen the weight on the plane, because we don't have like special blocks that are lighter than other blocks, right?
Not the case. We have the wing pieces, the small ones, which have a different weight setting. For example, this wing front section that we have here as floor or in the side walls takes up an area of 3 by 7, which means out of normal blocks you would have a weight of 21. But in this case with the wing piece we only use 5.
Oh, so the wing piece is only a weight of 5?
Yes.
Huh. So if you're using wing pieces, are they also affecting lift in the body of the plane?
Yes. If I would
Interesting.
only use the normal wing pieces on this Aquila and leave everything behind, it will fall out of the sky at like, I don't know, 30 meters per second. But with all the wing pieces everywhere, you only go down at like 12 to 30 meters per second for stall stick speed.
Wow.
And next we have, because of weight reduction, which also includes the wings for lift, and most importantly, fuel economy. So you want to get as much fuel with you, but don't sink down at the same time. So you have to do like custom wings. I'm not sure if they are lighter than using the medium or large piece, but it's more useful to have them empty for piping and extra stuff.
Okay, so you're using your wings for fuel?
I use them for fuel and empty space in case it tries to flip over and get extra buoyancy.
Okay.
If for whatever reason you would manage to land in a storm and a wave hits you and turns you upside down, the aircraft wouldn't think. For whatever reason, the Stormworks physics would think that it's a flat board which weighs nothing and it would sit 1 or 2 blocks deep in the water just on the wing, which makes recovering easy in carrier mode.
Oh, interesting. They will float upside down. You can actually bring out a giant boat and try to recover your plane, huh?
Yes.
All right, so these wings look really interesting because the wedges? What is the reason for that?
First of all, you get space for fuel and still make it watertight, and they weight less than normal block, so only half of it.
Okay, so you're getting a lighter block in there than a regular block, but it actually lets you put fuel in between the wedges?
Yes. Like when you use a custom tank on the helicopter, you can still make the tank out of wedges and still get a better fuel range simply because of it.
This is really interesting. I'd like to try this on one of my planes because you're making a super lightweight wing using wing pieces and wedges. Wow, I wonder what the calculation is on the if you had built this for regular blocks, like the difference in weight.
Think we have 6 blocks long and 3 blocks wide, which means it's 18 blocks or 18 weight for the space of the normal wing pieces. So we have 16, 32, too much.
Awesome.
All right, so now we have a beautiful chopped up plane. And what did you want to show us on this?
What I want to show is all the places you can put in the wing pieces. In fact, like 80 to 90% of the seaplanes I made are normally wing pieces, except for the old Albatros.
So
which I'm
even
not
like
going to touch.
so even the
too
wall
much.
like right here is a wing piece?
Yes, you can still see some kind of flickering where they sort of start
Come
working
together.
against each other.
Interesting. And so here's a interesting question for me. So when you use the wing pieces in the wall and they're not horizontal, they're vertical, does that affect how the plane flies?
Yes.
What does it do?
If you put them normally horizontal, you get lift when moving, or it stays more in line. But if you roll to make a turn, you will lose more of that lift because you only have the wings producing lift. But if you go to the back, yes, you can still see the edge of the wing piece on the front, up there. And this helps keeping it in line, preventing it from drifting slightly left and right, helping also with the heading holes and such. What happens when you leave it in the water and there's wind, it would turn into the wind, which means you can use as extra lift, because the waves are most of the time coming out of the same direction, so you can use them as ramp, so you don't need the water boost.
You know, I really haven't played with the wind, so I didn't know that the plane would actually turn into the wind when it's like floating. That's pretty cool. All right, so why don't we look at some of the planes you've worked on? You've helped people with planes, you've built your own planes. Can we see some of those?
Of course.
All right, so what is this first plane?
This is the PS-1 Commodore made by Sergeant Jamberg on Discord. And he contacted me because he had the issue when it was in the water placed and spawned. It would completely capsize and roll over on its top, on its back. And
would
he
just
couldn't
flip
figure
over?
out why. Yes.
And what was the reason?
The reason was he used the heavy rotors, but instead of using the pitch control on it, he tilted the entire engines up. And he went just a tiny bit too far, and it caused phantom forces to basically turn the entire thing upside down, slowly.
Wow.
Then I helped him getting better floating by simply, if you look closely with a flashlight on, and at an angle you see all the black lines showing up, which is wing pieces to get white reduction.
On this wall here that I'm looking at?
Yes,
So wing pieces seem like a really key component for making these planes work, huh?
yes,
All right. So you've been doing a lot of consulting, huh?
yes, sometimes.
All right. What do we have next?
Next one is by Cray,
Trail.
which is a Cormorant, Amphibious, short takeoff and landing. He did not really ask me for help, but I want to mention him because he already used all the tips that I was kind of posting on the Discord over the course of a few months. So he took the knowledge and made it.
Okay. Wow, these engines look nice too, how they sit in there inside the wing.
Yes.
Huh. Is that a technique that you have? How to set the wing or the engines into the wing?
It's easier using a lot of small pieces because the aircraft engine is 3 blocks wide, so you can hide it perfectly inside of it most of the time. When the wings are thick enough, like 3 blocks high, then you have one on the bottom, one on the top, and it looks almost flush.
Yeah, looks really nice. All right. Nice looking planes. I had no idea there were so many seaplanes on the workshop. So what is next up?
Next one called, brace yourself,
I am braced.
the almighty Albatros. One of the first creations I ever made for this game. Behemoth of a Catalina shows how much the physics of the game have changed. First of all, the buoyancy have changed. So you had a lot of boats and ships sitting deep in the water, and now they rise up and need stabilizers. Which also meant that this was original a Catalina made by Tony.
So this was originally based on the arcade Catalina by Tony, right?
Yes.
So it started off as Tony's Catalina, and then it looks a lot bigger for some reason. It is a lot bigger, right? Yeah.
So I tried converting it, and I ran into the issue that the water was running up to the cockpit height, and I couldn't figure out back then how to make it float better. I only realized the wing piece effect later, so it got larger and larger. Then I started working with custom wings, custom floats, which used on the first version have boat propellers in the floats for
Yeah.
takeoff.
Okay, there's your fins. And then, do you have a propeller on the back of this?
Nope, not needed.
No, because you're using the big
because of
rotors.
the heavy rotor.
Wow, very cool. All right, so you have any more?
Yes. Then we have like tiny experimental stuff I sometimes make. This I call the Caspian, which looks
Ooh.
like a Russian ground effect thing.
Is
and
this a
this one
water
is-
plane?
Yes.
It's
and
tiny.
It's literally made out of 90% wing pieces. It's basically just a giant wing with a jet engine and 2 propellers on it.
All right, very cool. Does this one work?
doesn't work.
Doesn't work yet. Okay, work in
because
progress.
of the compressor. But what we are going to use
Okay.
is one of my latest one, which was originally started by Major or Random from the Discord.
Random?
Yes,
Very cool. Okay, so this one has short little wings, and
it still fits into the dock. And if
oh,
I
it can
make
actually
the-
spawn the dock. Okay.
Yeah, and if I make the wings sit lower, not like a Catalina, it makes the front and back a little shorter, it would even fit into a small dock. But I'm thinking of making a Commando version for this.
Okay, that sounds cool. All right, so we are going to take this out for a ride. If you have any questions, you can hit the Discord and ask Captain about how he does what he does. But for now, we're going to see how he does what he does by flying this plane. Well, he's going to fly this plane. I'm not a very good pilot. Alright, so how do we fly a seaplane from the ground?
Normally we start the engine, take off the brakes.
Sounds pretty typical. Alright. So it looks like you have the controls color-coded, right?
Yes, everything that has to do with power is colored in the same orange color as the normal pipe ring that you have on enclosed and normal pipes. And everything that has to do with water takeoff and anything related is blue color. And brakes and landing gears is brownish for land.
Alright. So blue is for my water control. So I have water flaps and I have rotor tilt. Okay. So we don't need rotor tilt because we're taking off from the land, right?
Yes. I mean, it could still work and help with short takeoff landings.
Okay, cool. Alright. Here we go for the run-up. Woo! This is my favorite part. Okay, here we go. And we are up. Wow, that was easy. Alright, so what is the procedure for landing a seaplane on the sea?
Then we need to raise it in the gear so we don't bump into anything if there is. Then we need the water flaps to lift
Water
the power.
flaps. And they're down here. I
And
see
then
them.
we slowly tilt the water up.
Oh, the rotors are up.
Then we go to a lower altitude.
Whoa, lower altitude.
And then all we have to do is slowly go back on the throttle.
Slow down with the throttle. And is it going to drop in the water or is it just going to like float down?
It should
Wow.
slowly float down.
Wow, look at that. Wow, that looks like it's even easy to land on the land, right?
Yes.
It's so smooth. Okay. Let's talk about the water flaps. How are the water flaps helping us right now?
Right now it is helping us lift the power from the forward motion. I mean, if you turn it off now, you would see that we start slowly going up, but if you would increase the throttle for water takeoff, even though they are tilted up, we would start going down.
Oh, we're going down. And that's all because the water flaps are what? Flat back, huh? Neutral. Wow. Okay. And there was a button here on my side that says free fuel flow, close when water landing.
That's because if you have it open for like when you're low on fuel, like you already flow to the Arctic, which you can with the range, the fuel in the wing tanks will be low and you want to use the central tank, so it's kind of free flowing, and when you do a turn it flows from one side to the other, and when you then land in the water it will tilt to one side, which makes maneuvering in water difficult, same as water takeoff, which means you always need a stabilizer that keeps the level.
All right. So right now is off mean it's closed or off means it's open?
Off means it's closed.
Okay. So it is closed. So right now, with it closed, it means that the fuel is not flowing, or it is flowing back and forth?
It's not flowing.
Not flowing. Okay, so if I turn it on, that would be a bad thing usually, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's because when I turn it on, now the fuel can flow from left to right, right? Is that how it works?
Exactly.
All right. Okay.
But even
Very
if
cool.
it's off, you can still refuel the aircraft because it's using a flow amount valve, which is off and closed, but next to it is a fluid flow valve.
Ah,
So it's
okay.
actually going into the tanks.
Okay, cool. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at right at our rear end, the little booster. We're going to use that for taking off, right?
Yes.
Okay, so do we turn that on automatically or does it go on by a button?
You can press the button in first person, but I also have it on the cockpit seat itself.
We're going to take off. Oh, we're headed towards a mountain right now. Okay, so water flaps are down. The booster's not on yet, so he's starting to turn the plane a bit. I'm watching the takeoff. Oh! Okay, that wasn't even like a difficult thing to do. You just flew out of the water. Alright, so is there any other features we should be looking at before we end this lovely tutorial?
Nothing really.
Nothing really? We're just going to have to do our goodbyes and the dramatic flyby. Alright, well thank you for joining me, Captain Miro. This has been very educational. I learned quite a bit. Things that I'm going to try include really lightening my wings. I didn't know you could do that with the blocks. And also the wing pieces. Did we just fly through a mountain?
Yes.
Okay. That was scary. Anyways, thanks for joining me.
No problem.
Alright, are you ready to do the dramatic flyby?
Of course.
Alright. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye.